Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this year's edition of the Synchronisation Force workshop, which is brought to you by the Fair Impact Project. I am Sara Pittonet, and I'm glad to be part of the program committee of this series, together with Ingrid Dillo, Vasu Kalaizi, and Marian Grothwald. We have a very dense agenda for today. We will guide you through this new series, and I'm happy to start by welcoming Ingrid Dillo, coordinator of the Fair Impact project, for the introduction.
Thank you very much, Sarah, and welcome everybody. I, for one, am really excited today that we start a new series of Synchronisation Force workshops. And this is, in all honesty, the fourth already in a row since spring 2020, if you also count the ones that we earlier organized in the context of the Fairs Fair project. And this morning I looked again at the final white paper that we wrote at the end of that project, which contains 8 recommendations for future work. It was published in December 2021, so that is almost 2 years ago. But I advise you all to look it up again, because I think the recommendations are still very relevant. So I think that over the years, this instrument of the Synchronisation Force workshops has proven to be quite an effective one. An effective one really to, you could say, survey the EOSC and the fair landscapes, because we all know that there is an overwhelming number of projects and initiatives and actors. And with all those acronyms, the Synchronisation Force, we really, I think, try to start a dialogue between the different actors involved. And we also aim to identify synergies and also gaps. So I want to thank you all for contributing to this exercise by joining the webinars and the workshops, but also by providing your information through the survey. And I wish that you all have a great new series of valuable conversations that are also valuable for you in your work over the coming weeks, because as you know, we will be running this series until early December. And we hope to find a lot of common ground and a lot of opportunity to continue working together on these big topics. Thank you very much. Sarah, over to you.
Thank you, Ingrid. And now, for those who are new to Fair Impact, but also for those who aren't, I'll give the floor to Vasu Kalaizi, the project manager. She will give an overview of the status of the Fair Impact project today.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm not sure if I can move the slides, or you will do that.
It's Marian, I think,
okay.
doing so.
Great, thank you. So you see here our project in a nutshell, the background that I'm struggling to remember to change every time, because I'm myself allergic to walnuts, but I'm not allergic to the project. I like it very much. So this is a little bit of information about our project. Some of you might have heard this already. On the top, you have the call that we are addressing. So basically, it's one of the infra-EOSC calls of 2021, enabling discovery and interoperability of federated research objects across scientific communities. We are now at the second year of the project. This is a 3-year project involving 28 partners, and it is a coordination and support action. On the right of the page, you can see some of the mechanisms and structures that we have in the project that I'm going to talk a little bit more later on. Next slide, please. Okay. So our project, I'm not sure if you can hear me well, because my connection is not very good today.
We can, Vasu. Yeah.
Thank you. So Fair Impact. Fair Impact aims to realize an EOSC of fair data and services using coordination and support activities while engaging with a broad spectrum of stakeholders, which range across scientific communities at EU, national, and institutional level. In these 3 years of the project, What we are doing is that we are identifying fair enabling services, tools, and policies, as well as practices. We are translating them into viable solutions that can include guidelines, frameworks, or support offers in the project. We test them across communities, and then we support their implementation in others. But how do we do this? So this is my next slide that shows a little bit the structure of our project. So here we have three thematic pillars. Work Package 3, that is about persistent identifiers. Work Package 4, that is about metadata and ontologies. And Work Package 5, that is about metrics, certification, and guidelines. We have interoperability in the project included as a cross-cutting horizontal theme. As you might notice, these four pillars are very much in line with specific key action areas from the EOSC Strategic Research and Innovation Agenda, to which the project contributes during its lifetime. These four areas represent the key focus of the project, and they are supported by engagement, adoption, and implementation through the project's support program, as well as through dissemination and communication activities and activities in the lead work package, that is Work Package 1, that places some focus on synchronization and sustainability. So the synchronization workshops of the project are under Work Package 1, and they are created in collaboration with all the other pillars of the project. In this slide, you can see the leads of each work package and of course, our very wide consortium. Next slide, please. The central support tier of the project is what we call integrated use cases. In the project, we have some organizations that participate in the partnership. These represent specific use cases, real-life use cases from the social sciences and humanities, the photon and neutron sciences, life sciences, and agri-food, and environmental sciences. These partners participate in the four pillar work packages, providing expertise, testing in their communities, and also trying to translate these solutions into other communities. Next slide, please. So basically, what does each of these use cases do? They bridge to their own domain, and they bring proven approaches, tools, and solutions that are trusted in their communities. They are included in the work of the project around these specific key focus areas. They provide their expertise and contribution, and they define requirements and identify gaps. These are translated into implementation opportunities across other areas. Last year, I've given the example of the Fuji tool that is adapted to fit the SSH relevant community standards for FAIR, and this work is duplicated in other domains. This year, I will choose number 4, that is agri-food. So we have a use case in the project from agri-food and environmental sciences, which involves metadata providers collaborating to implement a common API for federating access to semantic artifacts in the EOSC. This API is iterated, it's improved and adopted by other semantic catalog providers, and then this is rolled out to new domains through support offers from the support program of the project. Next slide, please. And here is a little bit of an explanatory slide about our support program. So as I mentioned at first, Fair Impact is a coordination and support action. This means that we offer support to the stakeholders that the project is engaging in order to implement fair enabling solutions that are identified and translated by the project. This support program has different routes. One route is support through funding, so through cascading grants. We had already our first call in the first year of the project, and now we are running the implementation. In-kind support, which means that project partners offer one-to-one guidance to stakeholders for the implementation of FAIR practices and tools and services. You might have seen our open call that ran until, if I'm not mistaken, yesterday, right? Until yesterday. Then we have another route that is the FAIR implementation workshops that are openly available, and you can find them on our website. And then harmonization for EOSC readiness, which is also happening through collaboration with relevant EOSC task forces. Next slide, please. So as I said, FAIR Impact is now halfway the second year. So during this first year of the project, what we did was, well, we did many things, but among these things, we set up our 4 project management and governance bodies. We set up coordination mechanisms and support tiers, as well as a body of ambassadors. These structures and mechanisms provide support, coordination, but also strategic advice in order to increase the effectiveness and the impact of the solutions that the project is providing. The project management and governing bodies are our project coordination office, the executive committee that is the leads of the project pillars, the General Assembly, and our high-level advisory committee. When it comes to coordination mechanisms, this is the technical bridging team. The technical bridging team is leading and ensuring technical alignment between FAIR Impact, our sister project FAIRcore for EOSC, the EOSC Association, and other strategic initiatives at technical level in the framework of the EOSC. Then we have the FAIR implementation team that is supporting adoption and implementation of FAIR enabling practices, policies, tools, and technical specifications through the support program. And finally, we have the Synchronisation Force that is hosting the event today, that is in charge of establishing a dialogue among various projects, initiatives, and actors in both the EOSC and FAIR ecosystems. You also see national roadshows here and the open calls of support that I have already mentioned. Let's move to the next slide because I'm a little bit aware of the time. In this slide, you can see a few highlights from our first year. So apart from those that I already mentioned. So we closed the first year. We had our first periodic report, as the project people know. And we managed to achieve everything on time and in good quality. So this work also reflects in the upcoming sessions of this workshop. We managed to build alliances with other projects in the EOSC Association. We had 51 independent entities that applied for financial support through the cascading grants. And we have interacted with several EOSC task forces in some cases. In the cases of metrics, we have also published interactions to papers of the task force. We have contributed to the EOSC Focus Roadmap, so I have provided the link for that. The roadmap has been announced and presented in the recent EOSC Symposium, and we have also published our policy brief. In our policy brief, you can see how our project has contributed in its first year in the different key areas of the EOSC SRIA, some alliances that we have built, and also anticipated activities. And here you can see two different photos. The first photo on the top, it's from our kickoff meeting, where everybody was a little bit reserved about all the work that was coming. But I think that you can see the happy faces on the bottom. This is a photo from last month that we had our all hands meeting. It was another face-to-face event following the first year of the project. You can see project partners, representatives of the advisory committee, but also our EOSC Fair champions. I think the difference between the two photos is noticeable. Let's go to the next slide. In this slide, you can see our high-level advisory committee. It's a group of international experts and acts as advisory body on how we increase the effectiveness and the impact of the project. What we do is that we discuss with them key strategic choices. We ask for their active participation and independent feedback. We ask their feedback with regards to the quality of our outputs, and of course their advice when it comes to the different communities they represent. They represent a wide range of disciplines and stakeholders, including research organizations, funders, research funders, ambassadors, publishers, and others. In the next slide, you can see another great team. These are our ambassadors. This group of people are were selected last year through an open call, and they act as ambassadors for FAIR in the project. They engage with the different communities. They advocate for adoption of the outputs of the project. They are facilitating national roadshows in their own countries, and they contribute to the development of FAIR implementation stories. But most of all, they provide their expertise and their input in the project, and they create a very important link between the project and different communities at first level, and then to their wider communities. In the next slide, that, if I'm not mistaken, is my last slide. We ask you to get in touch if you need more information. So if you visit our website, you can see basically more or less what I spoke about. You can browse the beta version of the FAIR implementation framework of resources. You can see information about our calls for support during the project, the timeline, and different deadlines, but also which support might be relevant for your organization. You can find information about upcoming events, but also different outputs of the project. So apart from deliverables and milestone reports, you can see different publication materials from the events that we organize, and also materials that are from time to time available for community review that you can read, and you can provide feedback to us. And of course, you can contact us directly in case you want to collaborate in any of the areas that we work on. And this is where I stop. Thank you very much. And handing over to Marianne.
Thanks, Vaso. Thanks a lot. So now that you have been remembered, or have you learned a little bit more about FAIR impact, we are ready to start in the official, let's say, workshop of this year. You have understood that avoiding duplication of solutions and maximizing collaboration among different research initiatives is fundamental for FAIR impact, and it's the core objective of this synchronization effort. That's why we have called you all to join this series of events. Before giving the floor to Marianne, so the purpose of this exercise is to assess the level of the adoption of the FAIR principle across the different communities. And in order to do that, we are also referring back to a series of materials and documents that have been produced so far, which already stated some considerations around the adoption of the FAIR principles. So in the activities that you'll see from now on and over the upcoming workshops. You'll see reference to the Turning Fair into Reality report, which dates back to 2018, but which is still relevant for many aspects. But we are also mapping and assessing the way we all are implementing recommendations and inputs from other documents, such as the EOSC interoperability framework developed by the task force of the EOSC Association, the FAIRSFAIR white paper that was released at the end of the FAIRSFAIR project, the SRIA, the Strategic Research Innovation Agenda, both the version of November 2022 and the multi-annual roadmap that followed, which is currently live and being evolved. And of course, as Ingrid mentioned at the beginning, the report of the last Synchronisation Force that was released last year. So now I'll give back the word to Marian to introducing you this edition, the expectations that we have from you, aims, and how the sessions will be organized.
Thank you very much, Sarah. So welcome also from me, and a happy World Digital Preservation Day to all of you. I think that's also relevant to what we are doing, that things are not only made reusable, but will be reusable in the very long future. You heard about the project from Vasso and Ingrid. You heard about the wider organization from Sarah in her update of all these earlier reports and recommendations we try to take into account. And now we really get to what we will do in the next weeks. Ingrid mentioned this is already the 4th time we are together. You see here the link to the white paper that is indeed still relevant. The recommendations there, we should not forget about them, but continue to implement them. And there's also the link to the report we produced in our last year's session. The Synchronisation Force is basically a group of people in the project, and we use these workshops, as some of you know, because some of you joined several times already. It's not so much about projecting and presenting what Fair Impact is doing, but it's really trying to make a snapshot of what you are doing in the EOSC and Fair related initiatives in order to reduce redundancy and to share good practices across projects and infrastructures. And in that way, we hope to take a next step together with all of you in implementing the good fair enabling practices. There is a landscape. It might be nice to check, to compare these landscape images across the years that we worked on this topic, because they keep changing. You see in the left-hand top, the EOSC, which now has the tripartite collaborations between Commission, Association, and Member States, but also the task forces. Those task forces mentioned here are the ones whose remit is most closely related to Fair Impact. There are, of course, longer-standing and worldwide open science initiatives. There are a lot of sibling projects and other cluster projects that we have collaborated with already in the past. So this is more or less the landscape of initiatives that we approached when we organized this year's workshop series, and many of you represent one or more of the initiatives in this landscape. And we know it's not complete and it will never be complete, but it's great to see how dense it is. And with the workshop series this year, we will make another snapshot in time of what's going on. The goal, I think, is clear. We will chart developments in a couple of areas related to the pillar work packages that Vasso introduced. What are you doing in your domain, in your projects, your research infrastructure, and what have you? We will bring all of this together in a huge spreadsheet. It is a very simple spreadsheet, but it is huge because all of you will have rows and columns in it, and all our Synchronisation Force colleagues have questions to you, which you're supposed to answer. In addition to the spreadsheet, there will be this concise workshop report. I think last year we managed to keep it under 15 pages, so it's really a good read, I would say, and we hope to deliver that again. After next year's workshop, we will also compose a white paper with a slightly longer perspective, but also recommendations, of course, how to carry on this kind of work and to really find what aspects of implementing FAIR work and can be taken further. This time we have 5 topical sessions, and in February a concluding session. I run quickly over this slide because we have more details about this in a minute from the organizers of the individual sessions. I think you already saw it in the invitation for today, but for all these sessions we will keep using the same Zoom link. So be mindful of that and stay tuned. Today's session is, I'm very well aware of that, is broadcasting. This is more a webinar than a workshop. That will change, however. You are participants are expected to work in the workshop basically in 3 domains. Because this is a snapshot of what all of you are doing in the context of our sessions, we highly value your input through the online survey. The deadline put to it is the really very last deadline. We will have a later slide, but I'll mention it already now. Your input is supposed to be there before the actual session you are joining, so that in the session, all the information from all the participants is already available. During the sessions, what you provided in the survey will be visible in a spreadsheet. That is the big spreadsheet we work on. You will be able to update it if you have more specific information, for instance. And we will ask for your help to report in this milestone report about what we together contributed and found, and what could be formulated as a recommendation to take on in the months and years perhaps following this workshop. So that is what the screenshot is what you see when you enter the survey. And many thanks to those of you who already filled it out. We will now start with 5 slides presented by the organizers of the individual sessions. Let me tell from the start that the screenshot you see here is meant as a teaser for you to go to our website, because there is much more information there than we can show on the screen. The slides will be made available after this session. So please don't try to read the screenshots in this slide and the next 4. And with that, I give the word to the first topic organizer, Mike, please.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Mike Pretty from Dance. As Marianne said, we will be kicking off this first round of synchronization workforce session on FAIR metrics and assessment tools. However, this time we will concentrate a little bit more on metrics and tools for research software and semantic artifacts. But we're still very interested in what everybody is doing with fairness for data. So please don't ignore this session. If you are only working with fair assessments of data, your knowledge and experience is still very, very important, especially if you are investigating discipline-specific metrics or have reached a level of maturity, which means you're considering community-wide recommendations or a formal governance. We will be starting the session with a couple of short talks by Neil Chu Hong from the Software Sustainability Institute in Edinburgh on the currently very new metrics for research software, which were published this week. So this is really fresh, interesting stuff. And also from Daniel Gario from UPM in Madrid on their current work on a methodology for defining metrics for semantic artifacts. So this is all very interesting stuff. And even if you're not actually doing these things at the moment, they may be of interest for you. So it's a chance to discuss and talk and ask questions about what's happening in these 2 different areas to just the data. So there's a lot of things happening. And still, whilst we're having a nice chat about the metrics for software and semantic artifacts, gives you a chance to still fill in the spreadsheet for data and tools and semantic artifacts. So that's the first session on the 27th of November from 1300 to 1430 Central European time. Marianne.
Thank you very much, Mike. I think that was a good teaser to start with. So let's see what the promotion activity is from our colleague Esteban, who is one of the organizers of the second session.
So this is Esteban Gonzalez from UPM. So we will focus in this workshop in the I letter of the third word that is always misunderstood. Okay. Remember when you have to complete, for example, a DMP, and you try always to avoid the interoperable section. Okay, so we will help you in this part to make something decent. Okay, in this workshop. Also, we address a lot of so many questions. Like, for example, how many times have you thought about how what is a semantic artifact are, or how can we adopt a semantic artifact in my project to make it more interoperable? But also we are going to focus in some questions related with how to reuse data in your projects, institution, community to make more, to connect data from your institution or your community with other communities. That is always be a little bit tricky. And also we will focus on what are the worst data practices, because we normally focus only in best practices, but I think the worst data practices are always relevant. I always put the word data, okay, and you can see it, but we are going to focus also in software practices and also in the services, because when we talk about interoperability, we always try to make our services interoperable for other institutions. So basically the part, we will combine short talks with practical exercises using tools like Mentimeter and Miro. Just to finish, I want to comment that at the end of the workshop, we will have a discussion panel. Okay, we will talk about the answer of the different questions that we are going to plan during the workshop, and we are going to publish for everybody all the responses and all the answers to these questions. So I hope you see you on 28th.
Thank you, Esteban. And tackling the challenges of interoperability by asking for worse data practices, I love that. Next up, chronologically, and also today, is the session on persistent identifiers. Josephine, can I ask you?
Yes, thank you, Marianne. Hello, my name is Josephine Nordlin from CSC IT Center for Science. So this session is around persistent identifiers. So if that is a topic of interest for you, I really would hope to see you joining this session. But also if you're interested in discussing and hearing about trust and sustainability aspects in PID systems or means of assessing PID policies, then you should also join this session. In this session, you will also hear about an quite easy to use and innovative tool even that can query compliance with the EOSC PID policy. You will also hear a presentation on some initial feedback as a result of user testing on the applicability of this tool, seen from the viewpoint of different research workflows. So we organize a workshop about 10 days before this one, where the participants are testing workflows with PID in relation to software, datasets, and publications. In addition, this session will describe what features the use case partners involved in the Fair Impact project, which are representing different scientific domain. So you will hear what they value in PID systems, where they identify gaps. So this will be a quite interesting viewpoint as well. And also we tie this discussion a bit more tightly to the trust and risk dimension as involved in building and using PID infrastructures. You will be presented with some of the most relevant recommendations on this topic described in the quite freshly published knowledge exchange report titled Building the Plane as We Fly It, the Promise of Persistent Identifiers. So do join us to discuss this very interesting topic and hear from domain experts in this field. So this session will be on Thursday, the 30th of November from 10:30 to 12 CET.
Thank you, Josephine, and thank you also for reminding us of the upcoming workshop. I think that's very nice to, if it's possible, to participate in both. Yeah, so have a look at the website if you want to know more about that earlier session. Next up then is the topic of trustworthy and fair enabling repositories. Joy, I think you're the one to introduce that today.
Yeah, thanks very much, Marianne. We are picking up on this topic. It is one of the topics that we started in the Fair is Fair project, and it continues to be a challenge. So we will be looking at it again in this series. For those of you who joined the first workshop last year, you'll remember that we spent a lot of time looking at certification as a means of providing trustworthiness in repositories. But a lot of our discussions also started leaning more towards transparency as a way to allow people to make their own choices about what is trustworthy. So this session is going to focus a little bit on both. We will look at certification and try to get a sense of what is happening in that respect. But equally, we really want to hear more from you about how you're starting to progress some definitions of trustworthiness. It is always tricky. But more importantly, what are you doing in your project or initiative to try and increase the visibility of trustworthy digital repositories and fair enabling repositories? To that end, we will have a couple of conversation starters. We will be hearing from Nina Weisweiler from the Helmholtz metadata collaboration, and she's going to give us an update on some recent work they've done to update RE3 data's metadata schema to include some aspects that will hopefully help make repositories a little bit more transparent about their governance and how they operate. We'll also have a talk from Francois Genova from the Strasbourg Astronomical Observatory, and she is going to give us an update. Actually, she did present during the last Synchronisation Force workshop and gave us a bit of information on some efforts that RDA France are doing to support certification of repositories in France. And it's a good time to hear from her and get an update on how that work is going and what lessons she can share. The last talk we'll have as a conversation starter is coming from Ilaria Nardello, and she's one of the EOSC Association policy officers, and she will be giving us a bit of a summary of the most recent EOSC Association member survey and trying to give us a flavor of what the current availability of trustworthy digital repositories in this context, certified repositories, and how many are available across the member states. So please do consider joining us. Lots of things to discuss. I think the definition of trustworthiness is always a fun topic to start talking about. We will be taking place on December 5th from 2 till 3:30 in the afternoon. And so please do start filling in that spreadsheet, and we hope to see you there on the 5th. So thank you.
Thank you, Joy. And I think you tackle quite a lot of topics. And it's also good to see that the topic of trust that was already mentioned by Josephine is so strong in this area again. Yeah. The last topical session, chronologically, is about legal and organizational interoperability. And Anne-Sophie is one of the organizers of that session.
Yes, thank you, Marianne. And hello to you all. This session, you will all know that we talk about the EOSC interoperability framework in technical, semantical, legal, and organizational interoperability. It is from the project of fair impact our impression that sometimes it seems that huge efforts and work are put into technical and semantical interoperability. By this Synchronisation Force workshop session, we'll try to and move further ahead as quickly as possible on the domains, in the domains of legal and organizational interoperability. As you will all know, these are very important to ensure that even when we have different legal and organizational frameworks, we have different policies and strategies, we have to work together in order to actually exchange data and other research objects. Of course, ideally, we'll have a lot of common ground, but we do know from experience, all of us, I'm sure, that the common ground stops somewhere, and we need to have clear agreements about how we deal with all our differences, also when it comes to legal and organizational interoperability. We have now, I think I'll rather start to mention our key questions, as Marianne has put them down here. The session will be, we will have a panel with some experts in the field, and I'm very happy that we have these people to stand up, because it's not it's a very challenging domain. We have Christoph Bruck, Xavier de la Cueva, Victor Rodriguez, and Sena Vilata confirmed, and a few more we hope to have to join the panel in order to discuss these key questions. Marianne has struggled a bit with us because we have a lot of questions, but I think because it's a new field, that we have decided to be a little more detailed than you will have seen from the other domains. So we have tried to be a bit more sort of detailed and sort of to get into these matters. And you can see here on existing registered catalogs and vocabulary how you work with that. Licensing, of course, how data is protecting, and how we combine data, intellectual properties, terms of use impact and user rights, and how you all in different projects actually achieve this or not achieve. And we will, as in the other workshops, go across scientific domains. So I really encourage you to join us on December 7th. Will be the last in the series on this probably rather dark afternoon. But even though you might not feel yourself an expert in the field, I'm sure you will have an interest to please. Will very much, our discussion will be based on the answers in the questionnaire. We'll go through all these things with the panel and with you, all of you in the session. So please come and join us.
Thank you very much, Anne-Sophie, and also for highlighting that this topic is new to the series of Synchronisation Force workshops. So yeah, it is in that respect perhaps extra interesting for all of us. Please join and provide your input and what you are doing in your initiatives. Before I hand back to Sarah, there are two more things I'd like to mention. So you've now seen a couple of the colleagues in the Synchronisation Force. On the slides, you also saw there were rapporteurs. These are also project members and Synchronisation Force colleagues. However, we will ask you in all these sessions to help taking notes, because you are the one who can best provide the information about what you are doing and what you may be concerned about or concerned with. While I already thank in advance all my rapporteur colleagues, the appeal to you as participants is there as well. The other remark you see here on the screen, and you saw it on other screens, please provide links. We are not looking, and I know this sounds very strict and serious, and that's intentional. We are not looking for great ambitions to collect as input. We are looking for project or infrastructure outputs that are already there in the FAIR and EOSC world, or that are planned. So the more concrete, the more specific the information you can provide, the more helpful it is for us to draw some conclusions from and provide recommendations. and the more useful it is for the next round next year. So please provide links and be specific wherever you can. Having said that, I hand back to Sarah for concluding this part.
Thanks, Marian. So you've learned from the chairs that during the sessions, you'll be guided via a series of questions. And that's why we have asked you to start already filling in a preparatory or preliminary, as you prefer, survey, which collects the same information and the same questions that will be asked during the sessions. We ask you to do so before the session you will be joining for two reasons mainly. One is because you can do that with a little bit of time, so you take your time, work with colleagues, and try to provide these answers, which basically is useful for us to assess what are you doing. The web form is the survey is online as a web form. You have a link in the email I shared. We will be sending the same link again, so don't worry. Before each of these sessions, we'll collect the inputs that you will have given, and we'll bring them all together in this spreadsheet that you can see now on the screen. Why? Because in this way, we all during the sessions have access to the information provided by you all. So you'll see what others have completed, have filled in, and can tweak your information. And we found that this is, while pretty simple, a useful way to facilitate the discussion during the session. And during the session, you will also have time to complement any missing information or even complete if missing ones. So that's why we kindly invite you to look at that survey before. As Marian said, be precise. It's not a showcase, okay? It's an assessment exercise. So add URLs, identifiers, notes. Do not talk just about deliverables. We really want tangible things. And the purpose, again, is to let you brainstorm with colleagues, see what the others are doing, and hopefully start a discussion pairs or during and after this workshop to move on the same topics. Next slide, Marian. Yeah, so we will be sending you reminders with relevant links and actions before each of the sessions. Again, if you can fill in the survey before, let's say we start the formal series, is useful. In any case, please do so then at least the day before the session you will be joining, because at the evening of the day before, we will move all the information into the spreadsheet. Engage during the session. Use the chat, raise your hand. Is a collaborative meeting, and start even discussion among the other participants. Both the survey and the spreadsheet will be there until the 7th of December, so you will be able to tweak or add information. After that, we will move everything in an offline format to start working on the report, start preparing the concluding sessions, and after its the materials will be collected under a Zenodo record. The idea is to come out with the status of the adoption of different principles, which means adoption of tools, methodologies, approach in your context, aligned with the 5 topics that we are covering, and come up with a series of recommendations. And then we'll join back on the 8th of February to present you the results. And next slide, I think we have almost concluded our overview. So we are open for questions. We have addressed some already in the chat. There is one question maybe from Barbara now that it's relevant and useful. So she's asking if the purpose of this workshop is more the collection of community experiences, or rather the provision of consolidated guidance on implementation? Well, both. We first need to understand what are the experiences so far? How are you approaching, the implementation of FAIR principles in your community? And then we'll try to provide some recommendations which guide through the a joint shared approach. Okay, we'll probably not really come to a point where we are able to provide consolidated guidance or implementation, because we know that the spectrum of activities is broad. It's not just via this workshop that you can really identify, which approaches are better than the others. But that's the way to go, and that's the purpose of this series. So we will collect information, assess status, and see if we can identify shared approaches in all the workshops. Okay, so this is valid across all the workshops. If you take some time to read, for instance, the recommendations from the previous edition last year, 2022, or even the one from the first FAIR project, we try to pull out some high-level recommendation at the end. Any other questions? If you want to share the invite to colleagues working in your institute or project, feel free to do so. We ask them to register so that we know who they are in advance. And if you also know of projects that we might have missed, feel free to write us. Any other questions? So we'll try to share materials in advance, also with respect to slides, before the upcoming meetings. The workshop are really collaborative, so they will also be updated afterwards, for sure. But we'll try to anticipate materials. And that's it, I think, for today, unless there are any more questions or comments from my colleagues as well. This was where is it? We haven't shared this with you yet, the Google spreadsheet, because we'd like you to focus on the survey so far. So it's the same information, but we want you just to focus on your project or initiative, while if we already point you to the spreadsheet, you look at the others of because you've already submitted that. Okay, in that case, I'll check. Maybe we can pick some. Okay, not all. Yes, I'll write you in private, Barbara, and I'll ensure that you can all save drafts maybe of the forms before you complete it. Okay. Maggie, yeah?
Yeah, on that topic, maybe it would have been useful that you would prepare like a Google Doc or a Word file with just the questions ahead, and so that one doesn't have to visit the online form in order to just know the questions. Then you can work with colleagues, and then someone can upload it to the web in the end, because now it is difficult if I want to start filling out and then a colleague would like to come with feedback. It's sort of too late and doesn't work.
You're right. Then let me brainstorm with or we upload a template, or we open the spreadsheet already. I don't know what would be easier. Yes.
Yeah, whatever works for you,
Yeah.
but it's just that this collaboration within a project is now a little bit complicated.
You're right. Thanks. We'll tweak that. Yeah. Okay. Then, so we've done for now. So we will send you a recap message, and we look forward to seeing you on the 27th of November for the first session. In case you have any doubts, I mean, you know where to reach us. Feel free to write an email. Okay, thank you all, and enjoy the rest of the week, and see you in a couple of weeks' time.
Thank you all. See you soon.